Do you have a child that struggles with anxiety? In today's video, I'm going to talk about some simple cognitive strategies that can be used with a child to help them overcome their worries. Now, a cognitive strategy just means something that has to do with one's thoughts. That's our cognitions. And there's several other approaches to dealing with anxiety, and I'm going to describe those in some subsequent videos. But today we're going to just talk about worry thoughts that children have and how they can work on overcoming them. So one strategy that I use a lot with kids is to help them look at whether a worry is realistic or unrealistic. Now I might use different words depending on the developmental stage of the child, but that'll still be the basic idea. Sometimes we might talk about worry thoughts that are true and worry thoughts that are false. So something that might be true or realistic might be something that actually has some chance of happening. And something that's false or unrealistic is something that really has no chance of happening, or that the chance of happening is extremely tiny. So we might give different examples, and something I often use with kids in my office in Salt Lake City is we'll talk about if I was worried that a lion was going to come in the window of my office, would that be a true worry or false worry? Would that be a realistic worry or an unrealistic worry? And so we're able to identify that that's an unrealistic worry, or that that is false. Because I sometimes give them a little aside that we have thousands and thousands of thoughts every day, and just because we think something doesn't mean it's true. So a lot of things we think are false. They're just not really have any basis in truth at all. And so we can help the kids then understand that just because they've thought that something is dangerous doesn't mean that it truly is dangerous. And so we'll give a lot of different examples of things that might be realistic or unrealistic, true or false, to help them see that and to know that we have worries that are often giving us false information. So that a lot of those thoughts that come into a child's mind, it might say, oh, this is really dangerous, or we might really have a hurricane in Salt Lake City. We can identify that that's false, that we don't have hurricanes here. And that just because they've thought that doesn't make it true. And so we look at trying to find ways to fight off those false worry thoughts, to replace them with a true thought. So for instance, if someone was worried about a lion coming in the window in Salt Lake City, we might replace it with, oh, there aren't any lions here. The only lions that are here are in the zoo, and they're in a cage. So they might be fighting back against the worry thought. And we'll talk about it sometimes kind of like they're going to war with their worry. And in grown-up terms, we might be trying to externalize the worry a little bit. So we might want to think of it, help the child think of it as something a little bit outside of themselves that they're battling off. And that in fact their therapist, if they have one, and their parents, and other family members are helping them go to war with those worry thoughts and fight them off, sort of defeat those false thoughts with something that's true. And that can sort of help make it fun to try to think about something that they're going to war with. And it's not that anyone is against the child, that everyone is teaming up together with the child to fight off these unrealistic or false worry thoughts that are perhaps keeping them from having fun and from enjoying their life because they're afraid to go and do things, or they're afraid to separate from their parents, or they're afraid to go to a friend's house for a party or something like that. So we're trying to help them fully enjoy their life and not be held back by false worry thoughts that are keeping them from enjoying themselves. So these ideas are helping them to look at those false thoughts or those unrealistic thoughts and fight them off with thoughts that are true. Now there's some fears that have some basis in reality, and so we don't want to be not being validating of that child's concerns. Like if a child's actually been in a car accident, it's harder then to help them identify the fact that it's very rare to be in a car accident. And so if there's trauma that's been involved in the child's past that has been part of the contributing factor to these fears, that is to be handled separately. And usually, if the trauma has been severe enough or significant enough, they should probably be in therapy with a professional to help them overcome the effects of that trauma. But for instance, if a child's very scared about car accidents and they've never been in one, there's no trauma basis for that fear, then we're trying to help them just do some problem solving. What do we do when we have a worry of something that could happen, but the chance is very, 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 very tiny that it could happen? So we might have them work on some problem solving. For instance, that what we do to keep ourselves safe from car accidents is that we wear seat belts, and that parents try to observe the speed limit, or they take precautions if it's a snowy or rainy day, things like that, so that they can use some of those facts to fight off fears. And I've used a lot of that too with kids who have fears about things like bees or bugs. We might look at what are the actual risks of anything bad happening, or gee, if you were stung by a bee, usually the worst thing is it's just like, ow, and you might want to put something on it and it hurts for a few moments, and then that's really generally all that comes of it. Again, that might be different for a child that has a allergy to bee stings, but for the average child who doesn't have an allergy and is afraid of bees and isn't going outside all summer because they don't want to be stung by a bee, we want to help them find some ways to maybe learn about bees, read books about bees, different things like that, where they can use some facts to fight off those fears, so that it can become something more realistic, something more manageable, something more true, rather than those false worry thoughts. So I suggest that you give some of those discussion points a try with your anxious child. I'm going to have some subsequent videos about some relaxation strategies, and also how to use what's called exposure, which is doing the thing that you're afraid of, to help your child reduce their anxiety over time. So watch for those videos. And my name is Barbara Lester. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've worked with hundreds of children and adolescents on issues relating to anxiety and many other treatment concerns. So if you're interested in these kinds of things, please subscribe to my channel and leave a comment or click like on the video if you found it helpful. And thanks for stopping by.